Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Delighted to have in the studio with us a couple of guys that you need to know. You may already know them, but we are delighted to have with us Brad Russell from the YMCA and Rich Stanfield from the YMCA, talking about the Y and all the things that are going on down there. But the main event this coming next couple of weeks is the Pear Blossom, and you guys have taken over the Pear Blossom run. So welcome, Brad and Rich. Nice to see you. How you doing, man?
Good. Great to be here.
Oh, yes, good to see you. You know, maybe you can give us a little bit of a background what happened, because this kind of got dropped in your lap. You were doing the 5K, wasn't it?
Well, we were doing the fun run.
Oh, the fun run, that's right.
Yeah, and as Rich leads our board,
Jerry
big
and
decision.
Stella Swartzley, the longtime, the founders and organizers of the Pear Blossom Run, for 36 years they'd had this run. They came to Jenny Beck, our fitness coordinator, and asked her if she would be interested in the Mayor's Cup. We took it, and it was successful. And as things progressed, they dropped a bomb on us, if you will, Perry. They said, walked into our boardroom and said, "Hey, here's a race. Here's a signature event for you. Take it or no."
Yeah.
And we did. We had a committee that met. We took the race. Last year was our first year in-house with the Y and the Pear Run. Very successful. We had, I think, Brad, the second greatest registrants in the history of the race.
Wow.
It was a lot of work for 5 of us, our 5-person committee. As you can imagine, it was hysteria at times, but we pulled it off and learned a lot. And again, we're ready this year for the second year of the race.
And you're already saying, Brad, you're up 10%?
Yeah, up 10%. A lot more kids in the fun run, and a few more in the 5K and in the 10 mile as well. So there's lots of different races to choose from and get involved with.
Is it too late?
No, registration all the way through till April 10th.
Okay.
And online, pearblossomrun.com, or just come on down to the YMCA and sign up on paper.
Boy, let me encourage you to do that. It's a lot of fun if you've never done it, whether you do the 5K, the fun run, or the big one. You know what's interesting? No matter where you go in town, everybody's running out there. It's like everybody's out. They're out running, getting in shape. And some of these folks look like, man, you're not going to get the first mile in, but you keep going, man.
They're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. So everybody's running, getting ready, and that's coming up. The big day, and April 13th, so we want to see you out there. And so they can go online, pearblossomrun.com. Okay.
Yep.
Or go on and buy the Y and pick it up.
Absolutely, yeah. A number of other places around town, a couple of the banks and in different spots. You can get a
let's
registration
get out and
form.
support the community, support the Y. What's going on at the Y, Brad?
Oh, well, it's most days it's just controlled chaos, but I would say one of the exciting things right now is just an emphasis on making sure kids learn how to swim. Summer's not that far off.
Yeah.
Thanks to some funding from the Oregon Community Foundation, we're able to teach even more kids to learn how to swim.
Wow.
So this recent research says that if kids don't learn to swim by 3rd grade, then they likely never will.
Wow.
And so, if 2nd graders haven't learned how to swim yet, free swim session for them. Just come down. We'll get them in the pool, get them connected with an instructor. We want them to learn how to swim.
So just show up.
Just show up. We have different sessions. We want to get folks signed up, but
and how long is that course?
No fee. So it's 7 weeks long,
okay.
And we just they do a couple of lessons each of those weeks. Yeah.
Well, now this pool
lessons.
has a interesting significance. Rich reminded me that you were baptized in that pool back in the 70s.
I was Harvest Baptist Church. It was their early days. They met there at the YMCA,
right.
And the baptismal was the old swimming pool where our current weight facility is. And yes, I was rebaptized right there in that pool. So it's very, very dear to me. God just will not let me get away from there.
The building, you were saying that you've been there for how long, in and out of that building doing things?
Well, I've been there as a member participant since 1978, but I've been involved with the Y since the middle 50s.
And now you're chairman of the board.
I am.
Oh, good.
a nice progression.
Well, yeah, it's great. I just think it's one, and you guys provide so many things down there, and Brad, you're saying you even got some Bible studies going on.
Yeah, Rich actually leads it Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at the Y. And, you know, as you know, the name is Young Men's Christian Association,
right.
But we're young and old. We're men and women. We still, you know, embrace and exude the Christian values from our heritage, and we're still an association. So I say that we're half right, and we got the better half of that locked up. So, but we have changed. I mean, we're young and old, and we're men and women.
I think some maybe forget how much you provide in the way of services. Just give me a little bit of a rundown. I mean, you guys got something going on all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's about 5,000 members and 15,000 program participants in a wide variety of activities. May it be healthy living initiatives. Just last night, there's a nutrition workshop. Of course, there's exercise classes. A lot of child care. The YMCA is the largest provider of state-certified child care at schools in Medford, at Central Point, also in Phoenix Talent. Youth sports leagues, flag football and basketball and track and field, and those happen at the schools as well. We do some activities at the housing authority complexes and and at a few churches, and so half of what we do is in the building at the YMCA in Medford, but half of everything that we do is outside the walls of the Y.
I think it's just wonderful, all the things you do. Rich, what's on the future? What are you guys thinking as a board down the road?
Well, as you're speaking of the Y itself, our facility, if you come into our facility, as Brad has mentioned, we function for a lot of activities, but our facility is antiquated. As a board, we're looking to improve that facility in the near future. We have a strategic plan going on right now to facilitate a community campaign, if you will, outreach for monies from the community and strong donors to improve those facilities.
Stay there, improve there.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Well, it's kind of like a landmark, isn't it? You know,
it is.
We
represent West Medford. We're a pillar of the community, but we really, not to say that we don't represent the entire area, but we're established in West Medford, and that's who we really facilitate.
Rich is humble, I have to say. Our Y received a $100,000 gift from Sherman Wanda Ulsrud, and Rich and the board is looking for matching gifts so that we can really remodel the YMCA. So we've received that gift. We're so grateful and thankful.
So what do they do?
For that.
People want to help match that?
Yeah, so of course, they can give me a call, or we can go and visit them.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways to give, and I'd be so happy.
I just can't say enough for what you do, what you provide, and the Christian value is very much intact, and I commend you on that. But the big event, this is the one that really the Rogue Valley prepares for the whole year. Pear Blossom coming up April 13th, and if you haven't registered to run, you still can. There's the 10K. That's the biggie.
10 mile.
10 miles, excuse me.
10 mile.
10 miles. Then you have the 5K.
And the fun run, both a 1 and 2 mile fun run.
Yeah, so this is how it all breaks out. It starts at 7 with the 5, 7:30 the Mayor's Cup, 7:50 the Mayor's Cup 1 miler. Then they have this awards and things like that. Wheelchairs start. Then the 10 mile starts at 8:20.
You've got
it. Correct.
Now I've done that. Twice.
Good for you.
Yeah, and we got staff members around here that do it every year, and I just want to say it's fun.
It is fun.
But it's a challenge.
Right. No pain, no gain.
Oh, well, you know, but I'm surprised how many people are out there running around and getting prepared for it, and it's a great thing. And the Y now is responsible for putting all this together, and they're up 10%, so this could be your biggest year ever.
It could be, hopefully. I mean, we are just so lucky to be able to receive all the support, and in turn, we, last year at the YMCA, we gave out $274,000 worth of scholarships, about 1,700 kids and families, teenagers, and local schools. So the money that folks are giving to the race actually goes back to our local schools so they can stock up their sports closets. 2 teenagers last year got partial scholarships for college. Also, as we talked about before, swim lessons and child care and many of the other activities at the Y. This is how we fund all of those activities and support our local folks. The money all stays right here.
Well, it's just terrific. All right, you know, you can still sign up at the Y, or you can go online at the pearblossomrun.com. By the way, what's it cost? What's the entry fee? Do you remember?
Yeah, yes, it's $29 for the 5K and also $35 for the 10 miles. So it seems like if you're going the distance, it should be cheaper. But we have a lot of other gifts that go with that.
Well, we got ambulances out there. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. We'll get you to the hospital.
For example, Asante's given a hat out to all the 5K, a runner's hat to all the 5K runners.
No kidding.
Yeah, Fred Meyer's given out a barbecue ticket for the 10-milers. And so there's a lot of other freebies and giveaways and things that are happening.
It's just one of those events where the whole community does this.
Absolutely.
You know, and everybody benefits. It's win-win-win-win-win-win.
And that's the fun of it. It's a family event. It's a community event, and of course our name is the Family YMCA. So they all segue together, and it works quite nicely.
Well, Rich and Brad, just delighted you guys came in, and thank you for all you do. I know, you know, volunteering's not easy, working's not easy, and with all those activities, I don't know how you keep it all straight, but thank you for the service, and thank you for taking this event on.
Sure.
It's just wonderful.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Okay.
Thank
and
you,
again,
Barry.
you can register by going to the Y or going to the pearblossomrun.com. Get registered, be a part of it. Let's just shoot those numbers right up all over the top. All that money stays in the community. Everybody benefits. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Barry.
much.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Well, we're back, and it's time for us to kind of switch gears and go back up to Salem and check in with our good friend Dave Dotterrer. He's the Oregon House and Senate Republican Budget Coordinator. And I so appreciate Dave's passion and commitment to find out what's really going on. And so we're Skyping him in this morning. Hi, Dave. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to see you. Listen, a lot going on up there. How's the budget process from your perspective?
Well, it's working along here and everything. I think the issue right now, though, is PERS is on the table, and that's a significant piece of this budget. And so what we're seeing right now is people working through the different PERS ideas that have been put on the table.
Well, has any of the Republican PERS ideas gotten out of committee?
No. In fact, that's one of the issues that's here. Is there's been a lot of PERS bills and PERS concepts put on the table, are put into bill form, and not one of them has had a hearing yet. And so what we're really seeing is that yesterday there was a hearing on the Democrats' plan, which is essentially the co-chair's plan,
Right.
which is, as many of us believe, is PERS light. That's the least. That is the smallest number, if you will, and that's getting a hearing.
How can you possibly budget knowing there's this arbitrary figure out there? You don't know what it is, and yet you got it inserted into the budget. I mean, is this going to be a last-minute panic thing?
Well, I don't know whether it will or not. But if you talk to each of the subcommittee, the people I work with on each of the subcommittees within the budget process, they have budget numbers. And they have targets that they know they need to hit. And they have, this is how many resources I have to work with, or we have to work with a particular programmatic area. Well, the problem is that if you don't know what your number one expense is, for example, you're trying to do the Department of Corrections. You're trying to figure out how much money are we going to spend on prisons. I mean, that's obviously a very important function. And it's also a very, very expensive function. Well, their biggest expense happens to be personnel, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so how do you know what their personnel costs are going to be? So how do you work around that? So we really do need to resolve this. And what you're seeing right now is this has possibly come into a culmination point here, where you've got these three different competing ideas on the table.
All right. Just back to PERS just for a second, or stay with it. Explain to us what it is, because I know it's been modified, but at the end of the day, this thing costs a lot of money, no matter what level you come out at.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, the patient, in this case, the governments of Oregon, and let's be very, very clear here that we're not just talking about the state government here. Actually, state government is the smallest part of the PERS program. Local governments and water districts and things like that, they make up 40% of this process. This is a huge number for your for the county and for your cities, and the same thing for your school districts. They make up a third of this program. So, but what you're really talking about is over a couple of budget cycles here, we're looking at about a $2 billion increase in the cost of the program. And so when you look at what what each of the programs saves, you have to put it up against that. Again, okay, so let's see. In the current budget cycle and the next budget cycle, it's going to cost all governments at all levels $2 billion, and this program saves X. Okay, compare the numbers. And PERS Lite, the one that's on the table right now, saves about 20% of that, a little over $400 million. Okay, and that's it's kind of how you have to look at it. And people need to recognize that this is a huge expense that doesn't buy you any government services in that sense. I mean, you obviously have to pay your folks, but yeah. So that's the issue.
All right. So sooner or later, it's going to require more revenue. Now, where's everybody looking for it?
Well, that's just it. What we're saying is, let's not look for revenue. In other words, as I said, the patient is hemorrhaging here, and we're spending a lot of money on this. And so there's a proposal on the table to merely increase taxes and to get to a balanced budget. And my position is, why would you give the patient a blood transfusion before you stop the bleeding? Stop the bleeding, and it's PERS that's bleeding our budgets. So the answer really is solve the PERS problem, right, and solve it for the long term. Go big.
All right. So any other items that are still kind of slippery out there? K through 12, is it going to get out early, or is it going to be held to the end?
Yeah, that's interesting. There's a lot of talk that K through 12 will come out early. Yeah, there's a pretty broad consensus that was the right thing to do last time. There's a broad consensus on what the number ought to be, but on the other hand, now you throw in the dynamics of discussions about PERS reform, yeah, and possible quote revenue enhancements, tax increases. Okay, that may hold us up.
All right, so where are you in the process? I mean, when do you think this thing will start to narrow down?
I think we're going to start to see it narrow down in the next few weeks. There's a lot of discussions going on, and I think as of right now, the cards have been put on the table by all the different groups, and that's what I say, that there's these three different plans out there. There's the PERS Lite, which comes out of the co-chair's budget. There's the governor's, which is more of the middle of the road, and then there's the one that's been put forward by the School Boards Association and also by the Republicans here, and that's a much bigger number. In fact, the latest number that was put forward was a savings of almost $2 billion, not $400 million, but $2 billion in the next budget cycle.
Do you think your colleagues on the Democratic side see this, or do they just say, let's put the PERS in, let's put K through 12 in, then we'll figure out how to fund it later? I mean, I realize you're outvoted. The Republicans are outvoted on this. You got all these PERS ideas that are still being hidden in committee and can't get a hearing. At the end of the day, the Democrats are in control, and they like to spend money they don't have. Are you worried?
Yes. Yes, very, very much so. Because you see, what we're going to do here is if we just go with PERS Lite, what we're essentially saying is this: we're not going to solve PERS for the long term. We're just going to get through the next couple of years, and then we'll be back here in another couple of years, and we'll have this same battle all over again. and it'll be based upon a different set of numbers, and we'll just it's like a serial running gun battle here. I mean, instead of look, there's some great ideas for fixing this well into the future. Do it once, go big, and then we'll move on to the other issues.
All right. Any other surprises you smell, maybe, that might pop up?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question. Well, I think one of the other issues that I think people need to be paying attention to is there is an issue. There's some proposals on the table to change the sentencing guidelines surrounding Measure 11 and Measure 57. For those of the people who know the mandatory minimums that were passed by the people of Oregon over a decade ago, and some would argue have been quite effective in reducing crime. Also, but it has driven up our population, and so there's some discussion surrounding that. So I think people that need to pay attention to that, because this is going to touch things like this changing sentencing guidelines for crimes like child molestation and some things like that. So I mean, these are things that they really need to be paying attention to.
All right. What about the Oregon Health Plan? I know that the governor's high on it. He likes the Obama plan. How's that going to impact the budget processing?
Well, I think in this particular budget cycle, not particularly a lot, but if anybody had a chance to see Dennis Richardson's newsletter last week, one of the things that we've been working on and looking into is we just discovered that when you start to get out in the 17-19 time frame of this program, we have this huge $1.5 billion hole in the budget in the program, and we actually have a chart that shows that you get out to that period, and it shows this budget gap of about $1.5 billion that says state funds TBD, to be determined, and you go, whoa. I don't know about you, my friend, but that makes my antenna go up and go, whoa, wait a minute, let's start looking at this. So there's some issues out there with it that we really need to address. As
you go back and forth, House and Senate, D's and R's, how do you think the state's faring overall?
I think there's a lot of good discussions going on here. Of course, I'm obviously not invited into the Democratic caucuses, so. But I do see a lot, for example, on the Republican side, working together on what the various members believe in and reaching compromises, because there are differences between members, and there are going to be members who are not going to vote with their caucus, and that's fine. But on the other hand, I've also seen a lot of good discussion, particularly over here in the Senate side, between the Republicans and the Democrats, of people putting their cards on the table and say, look, this is important to me, what's important to you, so let's talk about this.
That's a reflection on President Courtney's ability to get people to talk.
Oh, it is. I mean, he was in here yesterday with the Senate Republicans, and everybody would put their cards on the table about PERS and everything, and the discussions will continue. But the point is, they're talking. Yeah, that's right. I'm fairly confident that they're going to reach a consensus.
Good. Dave, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your service up there. Thanks for keeping us informed. And I look forward to having you back many more times as this session progresses.
Okay. Good to be with you. Thanks a lot.
Blessings on you. Okay. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, all this week we've been having some special guests in to help us prepare ourselves and our hearts and our minds as we are now in to Passion Week, Holy Week, and I am really honored to have with us today for the first time in the studio, Father Kelly Vandehey. He's the priest at the Sacred Heart Church here in Medford. And we wanted to get the Catholic perspective on this week as well. So, Father Kelly, what a delight to have you with us.
Thank you. It's very good to be here with you this morning.
Welcome to Medford and all that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is a big week for all of us, and I know that for you, it started kind of really with Ash Wednesday, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Explain Lent from your perspective.
Lent, from our perspective, really developed out of this time. It's a special preparation time as we look at bringing people who have expressed interest in becoming Catholic, and so as they would enter into this time of inquiry, it became a special time of preparation for them, learning what the Catholic Church teaches, learning about Jesus Christ, opening themselves. So really the time is meant to be a time of great conversion.
Wow.
And so as that developed, what the Church realized is that this is not only a time for those that we would call catechumens, those who are preparing to enter the Church, but this is a time for all of us to journey together. And our conversion process, as we all know, never stops. We're on this constant journey of conversion. It is how we spend our lives. And so now together we journey with those who are seeking to become Catholic. But it's also looking at ourselves, looking at the areas of our life.
Does the Catholic tradition recognize it literally 40 days from Easter?
Well,
I know
we have to be a little bit creative about how we count sometimes, because Sundays do not count as part of Lent. So you take Sundays out, and the first 3 days right after Ash Wednesday don't really count, because
that's why
somehow we get to 40 days.
Well, I had Father Seraphim here from the Orthodox side, and he kind of, the same kind of thing. So it's not a literal 40, but it does kind of recognize 40 days of heart preparation up to... all right, so today is Monty Thursday. How does the Catholics recognize that?
We recognize that our Lent officially ends as we begin the celebration of the Mass of the Lord's Supper.
So today's the last day of Lent?
Okay. And it officially ends when we begin Mass this evening. And we celebrate the Mass of the Lord's Supper. And there's two things that happen for us during this Mass, or what this Mass signifies for us. One is the institution of the Eucharist. So Jesus Christ giving us his body and blood as we live in this world. But it's also one of the things that we do is the washing of feet.
You actually do. And I noticed a new pope today in Rome is in a youth correction facility washing the feet of the inmates there.
He is. And what it does is reenact what Jesus did with his disciples as the servant of the servants.
So you actually wash feet?
Yeah, we do. We do.
And you will wash the feet of who?
I will wash the feet. We take members of our community, both men and women, some younger, some older, and it's my way, because I, as the leader of this parish community, I am to serve the people. And as Jesus gave the disciples an example, that's what my service of washing their feet is to symbolize as well.
That's great.
Yeah. No, it's a very powerful moment. It's very powerful for the priest who's doing it. It's very powerful for the people who are having their feet washed.
I don't think
because it's humbling.
It is. I can say there's nothing more humbling. And of course, foot washing was the recognition of the dirtiness of the trafficking through life. And they got it on their feet. And Jesus did that after the supper. Is there any significance in that? Because they had supper. They had supper, didn't they?
They did it before. He did it before the supper.
Okay, well, I'm thinking. He did?
No,
I thought it was after the meal that he took the basin. But anyway, but there is a huge significance in that, because he even washed the foot of Judas.
Exactly.
What does that tell you?
Jesus knew very well what was coming, and he knew very well who was about to betray him. And I was thinking about that in a particular way, especially since Pope Francis was going to the youth correctional facility today to wash the feet. It's the way we look at people and the way that our God looks at us, I think oftentimes can be very, very different. And and so for the Pope to wash the inmates' feet, in the midst of their struggle, their darkness of life, Jesus did the same for Judas. And
Back to Catholic Lent just for a moment. I know that you encourage fasting during that.
We do.
Or maybe the giving up of certain foods and things like that. Where does that come from, and how does that apply? And what do you do with people that can't do that?
The fasting really comes from Matthew's Gospel. Probably makes it most clear that Jesus called the disciples to fast, to pray, and to give alms.
Right.
And so in our Catholic tradition, the fasting is meant for people between the ages of 18 and 59.
Okay.
Now, by the time we get to 59 or 60,
you're clear. No.
I know. Well, we would be clear, but it's now become so ingrained that most will tend to carry it on.
Sure.
But the idea of that is really to call us to a recognition that there are people in our world who continue to suffer. And we can become very comfortable. Fasting is something that everybody can do, no matter our level of wealth or lack thereof. Right. It's something that every one of us can do. And coming to that recognition of what it is, we give up something that we enjoy, maybe oftentimes something that really can change our lives. Maybe it's become a habit, a bad habit for us, but to be able to change that, come at it from a different perspective, but also to remind us that, wow, there are people.
And there is a significance of denying the flesh of the spirit. Thrives, which is interesting to me. If you don't know if you're addicted to something, try to give it up.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that would be the test as to whether or not you could lay that down in recognition. Because I think it has such a cleansing, purifying, making you spiritually aware effect as you move towards the Easter day itself.
Right. Yeah. The idea is that really we've been called upon to fast at least once a week. We do it in a particular intensified way during Lent.
Did that come back now? I know that
it never really went away.
The no meat on Friday? The no meat on Friday thing?
That didn't... that went away at some point.
Yeah.
But the call was still to let go of something.
Okay.
And it didn't necessarily have to be on Friday. Yeah. We do Friday because that's the day the Lord died on the cross, and so that's the significance of that attachment to Friday. But no, it's really an invitation just to be mindful of what happened on that day, but also be mindful of our brothers and sisters.
Are there any special services you recognize this week? I mean, you'll have your foot washing tonight. What will you do tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're doing a number of things, actually. There's only one that is really called for by the liturgy of the church. But at noon tomorrow we will have the Stations of the Cross, which we do weekly, every Friday evening during the course of Lent. So we will have the Stations of the Cross, just kind of moving from each station, the 14 stations, and a prayer with each one of those. And then from 1 o'clock till about 2:30 or so, we're going to do an ecumenical service, 7 last words. And so there are a group of us, ministers and Christian ministers in Medford, get together monthly, and so we decided that we were going to do the 7 last words. So 7 of us ministers each took one of these phrases of Jesus as he was hanging upon the cross, and we're going to just share our faith, our reflection of what this word, or what this phrase says to me spiritually. And then that'll be followed by a reflection song.
Will that be at your parish?
At our parish, yeah, Sacred Heart Parish, yeah.
And that'll be at
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock tomorrow. It's open to the public?
It is, sure. Okay. And then at 3 o'clock we'll do our first Good Friday service, which is we have the proclamation of the Passion of Christ from the Gospel of John. And then there's 10 intercessory prayers, which are very, very long. They're kind of long prayers, but they're universal prayers for just kind of our world and the needs of our world today. And then we follow that with the veneration of the cross, recognizing the glory of the cross, especially on Good Friday. And then we have Holy Communion. It's not a Mass, so we're not consecrating the Eucharist. Any hosts that we distribute tomorrow will be consecrated at Mass this evening.
Okay. And then Sunday, what do you do?
Well, on Saturday is really our big day.
Oh, really?
Saturday is because we celebrate the Easter Vigil, and for the Catholic Church, that is the heart of our liturgical year. It's this vigil, it's this expectancy of the resurrection of Christ, early Sunday morning. But it's the evening, our Mass, where we will proclaim a number of scriptures from the Old Testament that kind of lead us into this understanding our freedom from slavery, or our freedom from the slavery of sin. Looking at the life of the Israelites and leaving Egypt and all of that. But we start that with
what time on Saturday is that?
That begins at 8:30.
Okay.
And so it's calling forth the light, and so we have our Easter candle. We light the new Easter candle, which really symbolically during the Easter season is the presence of Christ, the light of the world. And
fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Father Kelly, I want to talk to him about the new Pope and some other things going on, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Well, we're continuing on with our series this week, and especially today. Here it is Maundy, Thursday, and just so honored to have with us today Father Kelly Vandehey is with us. He's the new priest, well, not really that new, but he's here, priest at the Sacred Heart Church in Medford. How long have you been there now?
Just a year and 10 months. Almost.
Right after Carey,
right. Mm-hmm.
Now Bishop Carey.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the Catholic traditions on this week and where they are, and I did not know that Saturday night's your big service.
Yeah.
I didn't. I never connected the dots on that.
Yeah, it's well, partly because it happens at such an odd time.
8:30, and you're going to go for a couple of hours.
8:30, and we're probably not going to finish until 11 or so. Yeah. Yeah.
And you do baptisms?
We baptize adults, those who have not been baptized prior and are now entering into Christianity and coming into the Catholic Church. So we will baptize them, and then we will confirm them in the Catholic faith, and they will receive First Eucharist. And those who are in the process, or who are converting, have been baptized in another Christian denomination, oftentimes spouses of Catholics who are now becoming Catholic, and so they will make a profession of faith. We will confirm them, and they will receive First Eucharist as well.
All right, you got a new Pope.
We have a new Pope.
What do you think?
I am enjoying him immensely. He's
he's so out of the box.
He is. He is. And the challenge of that, I can only imagine the challenge for those in Rome who have gotten very used to certain ways of doing things.
Right.
And he steps in, and he just has a very, very just fresh look at how things are. And every time he does something, it calls me back to the friend of his at the moment of his election, who leaned over to him and said, "Do not forget the poor." Mm. And everything he is doing is manifesting that very, very much.
He seems to be unusual in that, I mean, he's not even Pope 24 hours. He leaves the Vatican, he goes down, pays his own hotel bill. Today, on Monday, Thursday, he's at the youth correctional place there in Rome. He's washing the feet of these kids, of these young juveniles, which is so interesting. I just read where he's decided not to live in the Pope's palace, so to speak. Exactly. He's going to live in just 2 common rooms there in the Vatican. Yeah. What's that telling you?
Partly it says something about his personality and what he needs to kind of continue his own growth and this walk of faith for him. Certainly he sees something important about staying connected to the people. He's celebrating Mass every morning in the Domus Chapel of this really the Vatican hotel that he's living in, and these are the workers, these are the gardeners and the cleaners, and he's with them. He's with the people, and
he's chosen to wear a hand-carved cross that was given to him in Argentina, and not one of the more ornate ones, which is another symbol of his common.
It's probably a reality coming from what we would still probably call a third world country. Buenos Aires, by far, is not so third world. But but you know, just his relationship with the people and the struggles of the people of Latin America in general, boy, he has connected with the people who have struggled.
You know, there's a couple things. You go back to Pope John Paul, who was, I guess now he's on the track to sainthood, right?
Yes.
But what was interesting to me, he seemed to attract so many young people.
Yes.
He dies, here comes Pope Benedict the 16th, and they thought, uh-oh, we're going to lose this connection, but it didn't happen. In fact, the young people continue to grow and come to the church. And then you got an incredible time in history where we've never seen a pope resign, 600 years. You get a new one, so now you have a pope emeritus. I'm not sure how that all works out. I mean, I don't know what all that means, but...
we don't either.
Well, that was my question.
We're all finding all of this out as well, because the 600 years ago, when a pope resigned, it was for a very, very different purpose. Because it was a time that there were 2 or 3 popes, and he was trying to kind of bring the church back together to stop a schism from happening. And,
well, technically, does former Pope Benedict XVI subordinate totally to Pope Francis?
Yes. Yes. Okay. As will our Archbishop as of Tuesday, this coming Tuesday,
he's stepping down
at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or so. He becomes Archbishop Emeritus of the Archdiocese of Portland, and so the hierarchy switches, and we will have a new Archbishop, and Archbishop Vlasny, the current Archbishop, will be subject to Archbishop Sample.
The whole hierarchy is kind of fascinating, but you know what's interesting is that I guess Pope Francis was still number 2 in vote count when they elected Pope Benedict.
Well, that's certainly the word.
You never really know.
Well, it's interesting that anybody would know that, because the Pope, the cardinals, as they enter the conclave, all make this promise of silence, and so anything that happens in there probably we're not supposed to know, but but our human nature does take over, and word comes out.
Life is life. Cardinal Donan, what do you think? Has he got I mean, I guess he was on the list.
Well, he was certainly from the world's perspective. It would be interesting, you know, just to be a fly on the wall in a conclave, you know, but because kind of as we see things from outside, you know, kind of living in the world, and certainly living in this country, and we think about the possibility of ever having a pope from the United States, you know, there's an attraction for us, and certainly among the cardinals in this country, he's certainly the most personable, and
and yet he oversaw one of the most controversial times in the history of the church with all of those scandals that went on, and he had to ride that out.
Exactly,
and he did a good job.
And he did.
Have you ever met a pope?
I never met.
It would have been
Pope John Paul
or Benedict.
John Paul. Right after I finished studies, my church law studies in Washington, D.C., and at the end of that we had a trip to Rome, and we were meeting all of the various congregations, people we would be working with as canon lawyers, and so we had the opportunity to be at an audience, the Wednesday audience with the Pope, and so they moved all of us who had just graduated with our canon law degree around the back of his chair in St. Peter's Square, and we had our picture taken, and I have a very nice picture of my eyes up. And all of my classmates and the Pope in the foreground.
What is a canon lawyer? What do you do?
Canon lawyer is our church is structured. It really kind of comes out of Jewish law in many ways, because the Jewish tradition is really, I mean, there's a lot of laws in the Jewish tradition. But so too in our Catholic Church. We now have, in 1983, our Code of Canon Law was revised, and there are now 1,752 canons or laws that govern our church, and a lot of them are laws that we would just live out by our normal way of living. But really, the law was developed by various bishops having questions, and so they would send a letter to the Pope or to the Vatican and seek a response, and the Vatican would respond. Well, after a period of time, you know, if you don't codify all of that, if you don't bring it all together, you run the risk of giving different decisions to different places.
So in some way you're a guardian of the doctrine.
Well, not so much. In a way, the Code of Canon Law really is kind of the legal aspect of of our church teaching. So, yeah, so it would, you know, when we talk about the sacraments, say, for example, baptism, what is it that is constitutive? What is required for baptism? Well, there's the pouring on of water, and I baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Well, that's an official law. Well, we do that. We don't think about that as being a law, but it's a practice. It is our doctrine. This is what needs to happen for a baptism. And so it codifies, it puts into law.
The Catholic Church has taken a really strong stand on some of the very controversial social issues, which I commend you for, and yet now you're under the microscope again with some of the proposed healthcare laws in this country. Do you see any chink in the armor, or do you think you guys are solid and you're going to hang in there?
You know, we're going to hang in there. I mean, Archbishop Vlasny, he had a very, very good way of saying it just a few weeks ago. You know, so many times, and when we look at when the church and politics come together, and they just do. I mean, it happened in the time of Christ. They come together, in our faith, we have a particular ideal before us, and that is what we truly want to find. That's what we would like to see. But the reality is that it's going to be a process of getting there. And so maybe rather than digging our heels in so deeply, you know, we're going to take, okay, this little thing really was something that worked in our favor, so we're going to take it. You know, it was not all that we wanted, but it was a piece of something that helps.
So to you, it's moving the ball forward.
Exactly, exactly. It may not be as quickly as we want it. We may not get everything we want, but you know, our goal really is to profess what it is we believe and to stand by that. And
wow, I'm almost out of time, so let me just highlight. You have a foot washing service tonight. You have a how many services tomorrow?
We have, well,
you got 3 tomorrow?
Well, there are three different services. There's actually more than that because we do one in Spanish as well. But so we have the Stations of the Cross at noon. 7 Last Words Ecumenical prayer service at 1.
At 1.
And then 3 o'clock is our first Good Friday service with the Veneration of the Cross and the reading of the Passion. We do another one of those at 5, and then we do another one at 7 in Spanish.
All right, and then the big one,
the Easter Vigil, 8:30
on Saturday night.
On Saturday evening,
and that's probably going to go for about 11.
That'll be about 2.5 hours, and then Sunday, Easter Sunday, our regular Mass schedule.
Wow, that's very interesting. Well, thanks for coming in and helping us with this, because it's you know, I think what's happened. I'm passionate about putting the passion back into this week. I think we have just allowed it to just kind of slip through our hands, you know. In fact, we had a report today that only 58% of the evangelicals are planning to attend a Easter service, and only 57% of the Catholics. What's that tell you? You know? I mean,
well, and the fact that spring break adds another challenge for us. There are no excuses. It does add another challenge, without a doubt.
Well, Father Kelly, nice to have you with us. Come back often, will you?
Thank you.
And best to you, and I appreciate you taking time to help us get a better handle. You know, we have our differences, but not enough to say that we can't get together.
Exactly. We believe in Christ.
Yeah, amen. Blessings on you.
Thank you. Blessings to you, too.
Happy Easter to you all.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.